So I'm gonna go through the pump station and the main plant upgrades for reasons related to COVID. All of the construction was stopped at both the pump station and the plant. So we're currently working to get that restarted up again, put the pieces together. So that's the only updates to present on that.
That's as well as the main plant, right, Phil?
Yeah, Dexter's and the main plant, so that's A and B.
A and B. Okay, we have the Fall Sports Village. Chris, do you have an update with that one?
Yeah, so if you recall, we had the second capacity assessment, and it was determined by our engineers that we had capacity for, I believe it was 59,000. Got the summary right in front of me and I still can't find the number. But 54,000 through the Old County Road pump station without upgrade. They're looking for capacity in the ballpark of 63. But the engineers recommended that if we were to split the flow and send some of the waste through the Center Street station, or the Center Street pump station via that route, and some through Old County, then we could accommodate all the additional flow and still reserve some capacity. We've recommended to the developers that they direct as much flow as possible through the Center Street station, because the likelihood of further development there is less than the likelihood of further development on Old County Road. That would allow us to utilize existing capacity with very little additional cost and still reserve some capacity on Old County Road. The cost to do that would be to upgrade 2 sections of gravity sewer, about 340 feet on Bel Air Circle, about 155 feet on Stanton Road. There would be, we're already upgrading the Center Street pump station, but we would just go up to the next step up capacity pumps. The cost of the gravity sewer upgrades is $350,000. The Center Street pump upgrade, the upcharge would be $14,000. And then the last item is the in-plant pump station, and that's it's a pump replacement and an additional force main. The total of those improvements would be $1,640,000, which compared to the $22 million or whatever the number was when we first looked at that project with dorms, we're pleased that it's a manageable number.
So Chris, before you go on, can you just, the last item, how much did you assess that for?
I didn't get.
I had the 350, the 14, and then the total.
$1,270,000.
1,270,000.
So the grand total is $1,640,000.
Okay, thank you.
The sewer connect. Oh, I didn't print that out. Darn it. The sewer connection charges coming in are estimated to be. Paul, correct me if you remember, but I think it's in the $640,000 range.
660. I haven't seen yet. 660.
Yeah, that's pretty good from memory. 660. And what about the annual revenue anticipated? Do you have that figure?
It's 209,428. Call 210.
Okay, so about 210 in addition in new revenue coming in each year. So based on that, then of course the landlord would do all the necessary on-site improvements to tie into the system, the developer, and he would adjust the flow and design the system such that it does it the way we want it, which is to put as much as we can through the Center Street side, reserving as much capacity as possible through the Old County Road side. So my suggestion is that, so what they're looking for is they're looking for a commitment from the town that we will make those capacity upgrades so that they can continue. Now, to me, it's a pretty simple equation. If I'm a businessman and someone says, there's a $1.6 million cost, and I'm going to pay you, if you spend that $1.6 million, I'm going to pay you $210,000 a year, plus I'm going to pay you $660,000 of that your upfront cost. You know, would I take that deal? I would take that deal all day long. That's what they're asking. So at this point, now of course we don't have to make these upgrades until he's farther along the way to actually developing. At this point, he's got all the approvals, but for the site plan approval, which hopefully he gets on October 26th. But his financing is in place. Everything looks positive. But we would wait until he's actually pulled building permits, and probably even after that, until he's under construction, before we make the capacity upgrades and invest any money. So that's what I'm looking support for, at this time.
So how long would it take to make all those improvements in a time frame?
Paul, could you help us with that one? Paul Dobrowski?
Now, it sounds like, as you were saying, there's the sewer improvements and there's the improvements within the plant.
Right.
Sewer improvements would probably take, well, any of them will probably take a good 6 months to design. And then you would advertise it, bid it, with the pump, with the pipeline system, that materials are readily available, so that could proceed more quickly. The pump would probably take somewhere between 4 and 6 months to get approvals and get pumps arriving on site, so that would be a little bit longer term span. So you're probably looking at the pump system being a year from starting to a year to a year and a half from starting design to actually getting the system functional.
How many linear feet of pipe is it, Paul?
Got it here.
Pull
I
that
think
back
it's
up.
about 500 feet.
340 feet on Windsor Circle and 155 feet on Stanton Road.
500 feet of pipe is not a long duration of construction, but it's got a lot of congestion there.
Yeah, it's not a long run, but you probably have 3 months in construction on that.
Right, but I think from bidding the pump station at the plant to getting that constructed is a longer lead, because getting the pumps on site will take you a good 6 months. Add another 3 months to 6 months to get that installed and functional. You're talking a year to a year and a half for the pumps, probably more like a year for the sewers, conservatively.
Yeah.
And those are all done simultaneous, right? You can do both.
Sure they can be.
So you're looking at a year and a half, just as a time frame, right?
Right, depending on when it goes out, because you're not going to construct in the winter. So you have your construction season April to November.
Yeah.
Chris, does that fit within his construction timeline?
Well, he wants to start constructing in this fall. So, but it's a 2-year, it's about a year and a half build out, and he's probably not going to build the entire thing at the same time. The hotels, for example, they may lag behind because they're going to be farmed out and developed by others, and they may not do both at the same time. So there may be a phase-in. And I also don't know if there is a phase-in, whether our system can handle the capacity during the interim. Long term it needs to be fixed, but I don't want to spend the money until this is a go. I just don't want to.
Do we bond the money, Chris? Is that how we get
for us to decide? I think we probably could do it without bonding, but based on the funds that we have, but that's something that we would have to decide.
So let me ask a question, and it might go to Chris and it may go to Paul Dombrowski. So I'm looking solely at the plant upgrade. You're at $1.6 million. Two things. One, that obviously isn't just going to serve all Sports Village, but possibly any other development that could move into either Old County Road or anywhere else in town. Am I
That is correct. We have put in some allowances for the other connections to be served in addition to All Sports. But the difference between what All Sports would provide and others is not very large, but it has taken that into account. So it's not going to be like, oh, All Sports is connected. We don't have capacity for the additional 20,000 gallons a day that you could connect on Old County. That's accounted for, but there isn't a big, it's there, but there's not a big difference between all sports and everything else.
So then, let me ask you, so 5 years from now, maybe 2 years from now, something else comes in on Old County Road, and we sit back and we say, God, if we spent $2 million on the upgrade, we wouldn't have had to upgrade it again. Did we look at, possibly saying, okay, this is what we possibly need now and a little bit down the road, but can we go, quote unquote, extra big to say, we're going to be in good shape now for a while? Okay, we'll handle, I'm not just looking to do the infrastructure for all sports. Backup. I mean, I am interested because, we want to make sure, we get that and that brings in the revenue that it's going to bring into the town, but also looking for future development down the road. Is that infrastructure, can we look for a bigger upgrade other than 1.6? Can we look at a $2 million upgrade and really improve the infrastructure of the town? Because you're spending 1.6, how does it work in terms of increments, Paul?
So it's a really good question, Paul, because you're looking more than just immediate project. So we did look at that. So the question is, if we look at the things that Chris alluded to relative to splitting the flow between South Center and Old County to try to maintain as much available capacity in Old County in the event other things could be developed there, are very much along those lines. Right now, your sewer system, not that different than Mr. Merrigan's project, your sewer system from Old County all the way to that pump station at the treatment plant are essentially at capacity, maybe about 50-60% of that. However, the pumps at Old County put out a certain amount of flow. We're saying leave what's left in capacity at Old County to basically get that to 100%, so you effectively aren't adding any more peak flow to the sewers from Old County all the way to the plant. Once you make the next step to bigger pumps at Old County, or a bigger connection that would be in that system, you've got the pump station and a whole bunch of sewers to worry about. So it's not $1 million plus, it's many $1 million plus for the next step function to increase capacity from Old County all the way to the plant. So right now we're kind of looking at the bottlenecks and taking them out one at a time. But the next big bottleneck step is a really big step. A bunch of sewers along Old County, along Green Manor, and the pump station at Old County would all need work to take it to the next step.
The reason I ask that is, if this project, paying for it could be a year down the road. A year from now, our debt service gets tinier because we pay off one of the debt services that are out there. So where I'm looking at is, it's a money thing again. So I'm looking at, okay, a year from now, we free up some debt service money because we've paid off one of the notes. Is that the time to do the bigger project and do it that way? Because I would hate, not that I would hate to spend the 1.6 and then 2 years down the road we're spending 3. Everyone should know piecemeal never works for me. Let's just get it done right the first time. So maybe a different way of looking at it is, a year from now, how much debt's falling off? How much more can we take on and fix this whole thing finally right? I don't know what other people think.
The other thing on the radar is that the watering equipment at the plant is the one part that wasn't substantially touched in the most recent upgrade, and that's the pilot study that we were going to be pursuing as we progress into the fall this year. And ultimately, that probably turns into replacing that equipment that is 35 years old and is in a very difficult environment for the equipment and for staff. So that's something that should be on the radar in the coming year. And that is going to, that's not going to be a $100,000 project. That's
that and a few other items in a plant should be upgraded before other things. There's a lot of original equipment in there that wasn't considered in this round of upgrades.
I guess the good news is that I think what the developer and Chris are looking for is we have a year to decide whether we just want to do this upgrade or we want to do a much larger upgrade, with this. I think what we're looking for is just, are we going to upgrade minimally this portion, and then we can decide over the next year or so how big we want this upgrade to be.
When do you expect you'll need this capacity when he'll be connected and discharging at, say, more than 50% of what he's asking for?
If everything goes according to plan, you know, he would start construction shortly after he closes at the end of October. But, you know, he's figuring a minimum year and a half build out. So that means it's from now, it's what, 2 years? Almost 2 years? At the earliest. I don't expect he'd be operating at full capacity at that time anyway. Those hotels are probably going to come online at a slower pace. So yeah, I think we've got at least a year before we can decide whether or not, you know, exactly how we're going to deliver the additional capacity. The issue now is whether we're willing to deliver the additional capacity one way or the other.
Do you think they'll be actually functioning and discharging in about 2 years then?
I would say 2 years.
Okay.
So we have time.
You have 6 months to a year to get started on things, more or less,
Yeah.
in that range.
So we have 6 months to a year to decide how big of an upgrade that we want, and which is great. But I think tonight, if you know, I think we're looking forward is that we'll agree that we're going to do some type of an upgrade within 2 years. We just don't know how big.
Yeah,
It'll be at least
that now.
Yeah, it'll be at least the 1.6. Well, 1.6. It sounds like, but it could be bigger.
Right. And
I
Chris, I guess the developer's only concern is whether it's our cost or his. Is that what I'm getting at?
That's correct. He's expecting.
Okay. I mean, because I'd really like to see the scope of the projects that are necessary down the main claim as well. You know, if we're gonna really do these upgrades and get this up and running, I think, Paul, you've started the conversation, but I'd like to see the project. You know, I mean, at this level it's this, at the next level it's this, and we go from there. You know, but it sounds like we've got some plan improvements that have to take place before we really consider the next step up. You know, but I'd like to have a plan. I'd like to see some various scenarios before. I mean, we commit to this as a minimum. We tell the developer, yes, we'll pick up the cost. You know, but we develop a plan in the next couple of months, and then we get working. Does that make sense?
If it's in line with how Phil wants to pursue it, we'd be happy to sit down and kind of scope all those things out and make the lists and try to put some dollars and cents next to it under, you know, kind of working with Phil and staff to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we could. Did I mishear you? Did you? We could anticipate all the new revenue coming in from this, and that alone would cover the debt service on a pretty hefty bond to pay for it all. Yeah, I mean, not to mention the fact that he's already kicking in 660 or, you know, ballpark right up front.
That's true. I mean, you're looking at, well, you know, in the first year alone, $800,000, $870 to be exact, in the first year. So between user fees and connection fees, so I mean, you're halfway. Yeah, it's just, I don't. The Band-Aids never work good in my mind because we're gonna be sitting here in 2 years saying, why didn't we make it bigger? You know, because Amazon decides they want to come to Windsor. They find some plot of land or whatever. Why didn't we do? And then we're back at the drawing board again. You know.
Paul, excuse me. John, I think John Himlin wants to say something. He's got his hand up.
Thanks, Phil. I just wanted to bring up that we shouldn't, that effort to do that planning that you're talking about, Paul, is, that's not a short process either. That could be 4 to 6 months depending on how detailed the authority wants to get, you know, in doing those planning build-out scenarios and looking at different alternatives and cost estimating to make those decisions. That can be, you know, a 4 to 6 month effort, or more, depending on how detailed it gets. So I just wanted to point that out, just so you guys.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But we know we have that time because what we're proposing now, the 1.6, comes from an analysis that involves making only upgrades to the plant and to the Center Street route, no upgrades to the Old County route. So the only question is whether we want to add upgrades to the Old County route and fund it at the same time. But we know got time to make that decision, because all we really are committing ourselves to do is make these modest upgrades to Center Street, and we've got it covered. Now, it's like a guy saying, I want to rent a house from you, but you got to build the house, and by the way, I'll pay a third of the cost of the construction of the house in order so you can rent it to me. I mean, it's a winner all the way around. And we don't have to build the house until we know the guy's already down the road, already moving his furniture in.
I think part of what John was saying is, if you want to start this, is you want to get going sooner than later to figure out what it is you want to contemplate. So
because you don't want to arbitrarily pick. So the question is, well, if we don't, do we upgrade the system to accommodate all sports, or do we look at a larger upgrade that accounts for some future development? So what I'm saying is, you don't want to arbitrarily pick that next step up. You want to do some analysis to determine,
correct,
okay, do we upgrade out Old County to, double the size, triple the size? What is that? And that's all I'm saying, is that level of effort is not quick. It's
right. But we know that we can do nothing on Old County and still accommodate this. So we're in a good position there to take our time and do the proper analysis.
So what's the appropriate motion?
So I move that we issue a letter to the developer All Sports Village, or to his bank, whichever he prefers, that commits to making the system upgrades that are necessary to meet his capacity request of
67, Chris.
67, thank you, gallons per day?
Gallons, average daily flow of 67,000 gallons per day.
That's my motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Patrick?
Yes.
Discussion. Just to kick off discussion, and I'll just reiterate, I think it's a good plan to not. My ultimate goal is to just improve it all and get as much, of this out of the way, so in 15 years and 10 years, we're not looking at doing more upgrades, and we finally address, the plant and all the outside sources. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like with debt falling off in a few years. I think it's the right time to probably take on some more projects and get this plant into 2020, 2021, probably by the time we get it done.
I'd agree with you, Paul, and I don't think you're going to find cheaper money than we have now.
Right.
And the cost of construction is just going to go up. So, it would seem to me that some further discussion about what we need, Paul and John, but I really would like to take some some bigger step than just accommodating All Sports Village. I think we need greater capacity, and we want to allow future development within our town. And I don't want to keep going to the townspeople and saying, oh, well, we should have done this a couple of years ago, but we need to do it now. So
I agree. We need to put it all together, in my opinion, instead of just piecemeal it. Get one solid report on everything.
I know I'm not a commission member, but I'd like to maybe add one minor clarification to the letter. And it would be to clarify what the flow splits should be for the South Center side and the Old County side, to make sure that they don't come up with a plan that ultimately overloads one side or the other.
So maybe make it a condition that they work with us in developing the flow splits?
Yes, 27,000 to South Center and 40,000 to Old County.
I'll amend my motion that we add that as a condition, that they consult with us before determining the flow splits between the two different routes.
Allows you to preserve Old County as much as possible.
do you need the exact splits? Do you know the 27?
No, but no more than 27 at South Center. But you want to put as much up to that to South Center so that you keep as much available. But there is some land to be developed on Old County near that pump station that you do not want to have this exclude that development.
Correct.
The target is 27 and 40 plus or minus a little bit.
And they've already been given those parameters, and they're designing their system to meet those.
Can I just add one more thing to that motion? That we have our WPCA attorney draft the letter.
Jeez, really?
Really? You need that happening, Paul?
Well, how do we draft the letter? I mean, is Phil drafting the letter? Am I drafting the letter?
Well, I think it sounds
Who's
like
drafting the letter? Who's drafting the letter?
Phil draft that letter.
The who?
It sounds like Paul will help Phil draft that letter.
Paul Dombrowski's going to help Phil. Okay, all right. I was just seeing who was drafting the letter, so that's my only reason I brought that up. All right.
I just assumed it was the president.
See? That's why I brought that up. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We have CA Woodward current status scope.